Hey guys, so summer's been absolutely crazy this year, and two different shows in particular, I've had my gear drenched by some severe weather. It's pretty crazy. I don't know if you guys have had the same summer that I have, but the weather's been absolutely insane lately. One of these shows was under a massive stage, and I had time to prep for it, and I didn't do so well with my prep when I knew that the storm was coming. The other one was on a tiny stage under a small pop-up tent, and it came so fast it showed up out of absolutely nowhere. They both sucked for sure, but at least I figured I could make a video about this to explain what happened, what to do if this happens to you, and how to prepare to prevent this from hopefully happening to you in the future. So far, all my gear has turned on. It's pretty amazing. I thought a few things were fried for sure, but a couple of days later, they were able to work. But it was pretty eye-opening, and hopefully this video will help some of you guys out in some way. Hopefully you just don't have to go through this, but if you do, hopefully you'll be more prepared after you watch this video. So don't forget to subscribe before we get started. It definitely helps out my channel, and hitting the thumbs up button is also another free way to support the channel. So what happened? So the first one was actually on July 4th. It's actually one of our favorite shows that we get to play. It's such a fun show. We've done it for the last 5 years, I think. There's like 60,000 people who show up. There's a nice, massive stage, great sound crew. It sounds awesome. Last year, I got to do a kazoo solo during it.
Make some kazoo noise!
Always a blast. So last year we had a little bit of rain as well. We had to tarp up, kind of wait about 20 minutes for the rain to clear up, get set back up, and then we could continue our set. This year was completely different. It was such a bad storm that hit, of course, right when we're going on. We were the headliners actually too. I brought our wireless mics, very expensive wireless mics. I brought our wireless in-ear monitor system, our in-ear monitor rack, and stuff like that for the band to use. Everything was racked up, everything was connected, everything was patched in. It went super smooth. And then, of course, we started getting alerts that there was going to be severe weather coming and everyone needed to seek shelter. So everyone in the audience had to go seek shelter. They had to take like tents down and stuff like that. I foolishly made the mistake of assuming, oh, this is going to be just like last year. It's just going to be a quick storm and that's going to be it. So I just left the rack up, put tarps on pretty poorly, and then just went to my car and waited it out. You could see the storm coming in. You could tell that it was not going to be good. I really wish I would have gotten footage of the storm, but I was just sitting in the car just stressing out. So I didn't get footage of the storm, but you can see the after effect. Just destroyed. Absolutely destroyed. Look at this. It's done. Everything is blown over. Jeez. Unbelievable. Man, Monitor World just had their tent was just done. You saw the Shure wireless antenna just stuck between the poles. The entire thing collapsed. It was so bad. And of course, because I didn't tarp that well, the tarps kind of blew off in the front and rain just started pelting the front of all my gear. The wireless mics and the wireless in-ear monitor systems and my in-ear monitor rack. Thankfully, it didn't blow off of the back where all the cables and all the electronics were exposed. So it just hit the front of it. That might have saved me, plus the fact that I powered it off. So I'm really glad that I had it powered off. One of the dumbest things I did is I don't know why I didn't put one of the front panels back on the rack. I mean, it takes like 2 seconds just to put these panels in on the front and just latch them in, and it would have protected the front. I don't know why I didn't do that. On the back, that's where everything was already patched in, so I definitely should have put these things in the front. Lesson learned, if you have just 2 seconds to put these covers on the front of your rack, definitely do it. Hindsight's 2020. Hopefully you learn from my mistakes. I had no idea how much damage this thing got because there was literally no dry spot on the stage. The wind was so extreme. It never just rains down. It always blows onto the stage every time that it's like a bad storm like this. So that one was bad enough and stressful enough. 10 days later, we had one that was even worse. I didn't have to provide PA for this one. Our singer provided his mixer and the PA system. This one was under a small pop-up tent on a small stage. The tent was weighed down, but it was definitely a smaller tent than what I prefer. I already had PTSD from this last show, so I was already nervous going into it. I did message them asking if we can move inside. I love this place. We play there all the time. It's one of our favorite places to play as well. Unfortunately, the show couldn't be moved inside because it ended up being that the show was sold out and there wasn't enough room inside. There were 450 people there all ready to hang out in the beer garden that this event was held at. So I just figured, okay, we'll just watch the radar. I have my tarps with me. We'll just tarp this stuff up if we need to. Keep an eye on the radar and we'll go from there. The show started like this. mean, it was hot. It was like really warm. It was really hot. So we have a really good friend of ours. Her name's Larissa. We call her our momager because she just makes the show run so much smoother whenever she's there. But she was there and she was watching the radar, didn't see anything coming up. I would check it as well. We didn't really see anything coming, so we just kind of kept going with it. We saw some tiny sprinkles, like it just barely started to drizzle. But then we saw like a little bit of lightning. So we paused the show and I was like, all right, well, we're going to tarp and put some of this gear back where it's safe. I moved my guitar into like the spot kind of in front of the restrooms where it's kind of an indoor spot over there. And that came back to tarp up. I had time to put one tarp down without any weights or ties or anything because I had ties at this point after the last show. And then this started happening within like 60 seconds. No joke. So the problem was that the wind started to really pick up, like really pick up. There were 5 of us trying to hold this tent up. It was weighed down and 5 of us were literally holding this tent up and you could see that it wasn't going to hold. Our singer correctly was like, dude, we have to bail. We have to bail. So we just had to bail on the tent and just let our gear just get soaked. I mean, it was a safety thing. We had to leave the tent. It's amazing none of us got hurt by that because that wind was so intense. We just had to just sit there and just let all of our gear just get drenched in this stuff. I got a little bit of footage of this, so I'm not very G-rated in this clip, but I want to show you how just really bad this was.
Done. Fucking done. Look at this. Look at this shit.
I couldn't believe how fast this hit, how hard it hit, and how no radar caught it. It was ridiculous. So that one was by far worse than the first one. So for both of those, I took my gear home. I took it all out to dry. So, all of my cable bags and stuff like that, that's fine. It's just open it up, get all the cables out, let them dry, and put them back the next day. But all the expensive gear, the electronics and stuff like that, you don't want to turn it on if there's water in it. So I took those things out. I unracked everything in my rack and I put fans right in front of all of it in order to dry it out and make sure that it would be dried out before I tried to turn it on. After the first show, I waited 3 days before turning it on. After the second show, I only waited about 24 hours, which I probably shouldn't have done, but we had a show the next day. After the July 4th one, I didn't have anything for 3 days. I also ordered some dehumidifiers. This was something that one of my singers recommended, and I put some of the gear in trash bags. So this stuff is meant to absorb moisture. So if there was water in some of the gear that I had, hopefully this stuff would just suck all the moisture out. That was a plan between the fans and the dehumidifiers. So what gear did survive? So all the gear from that first one, I waited 3 days, and I tried turning all of them on, and they worked. And it's been working fine since then. Again, man, I really hope I'm not jinxing it by saying this. For that second show, we did lose a few things, I thought. I thought some of this was fried for sure. My microphone would not turn on. My wireless guitar system, the one that I always talk about, my $1,000 wireless guitar system, or it did turn on, but it only gives static. And then my singer's vocal effects processing pedal would not turn on as well. So at the show that we played the next day, that stuff didn't work. But then we played a show a couple of days later, and it did work. So I don't know if it just needed to dry out. So that's definitely a lesson to learn, is give it more than 24 hours if it gets drenched in rain. But so far it's been working. I just used that wireless again last night. I used it a few nights ago. I'm really glad that we powered stuff down, especially at that first show, where I had enough time to prep and I shut off the power to everything. If it was live, it definitely would have had less of a chance of surviving. At that second show, I powered off a few things, but it hit so quickly that I didn't have time to do anything else. I did find out that our momager, Larissa, just pulled the master power. There was one cable plugged into power, then that powered everything else into a power strip, and she unplugged the master power. So that probably saved our gear as well. So props to the gear that survived. Shure, Phoenix Pro, Sennheiser, Behringer, Audio-Technica, EV, Roland, my brand new track rig, which I just did a video on. Literally the first show that I had, I got about 40 minutes into using this brand new piece of gear before this happened. Both shows were with 2 different bands. Both drummers that I had the ROLAND SPDSX sample pad. Both of them got hit really hard. I remember at that second one, my drummer was literally dumping water out of like the sound, the input and output holes, and it still worked. That's pretty crazy. The Phoenix Pro body packs, man, the in-ear monitor packs, those were like in a puddle, and those survived. The Shure wireless mics, those were in a puddle, those survived. And I can definitely say that these cases in particular are definitely waterproof. They're advertised as waterproof. There was not a drop of anything in these when I opened them up after both storms. So I definitely recommend these. I will post links down below to some of this gear that I'm talking about so you can be prepared in the future as well. So yeah, I love this gear that I use now a lot since I know that it can survive these storms. Okay, tips and advice of what to do if this happens to you and things that I've learned so you can hopefully learn from my mistakes. So the first thing that you should do is unplug or unpower everything. Make sure that there's no speakers live, make sure you're in your monitors, powered down, stuff like that. If this stuff is live when the water hits it, that will fry it for sure. If it's wet and you have at least the opportunity to dry it out before you turn it on again, it has a chance of surviving. I think that is one of the main things that caused my gear to survive this. Next piece of advice is to always have tarps if you are outside. If we are outside in any way, shape, or form, it doesn't matter what structure we're under, if we are not inside a building, I always have tarps with me. And make sure you have good ties too. That was a mistake I made with the first one. With the second show, I didn't have time to literally get anything down. But you want to make sure that you weigh it down, whether that's with sandbags or with different ties. There's 3 different types of ties that I found. I'll post them on the screen now. 2 of them are ties. One of them is more of a clip. I got the first 2, and I ordered quite a few of those so that I make sure that I have the ability to tarp everything down and make sure that I'm able to tie it down properly. I'll post those down in the description, as well as the tarps that I ordered. If you use just like speakers, like my Singer uses EV speakers that go on top of a pole, trash bags are so easy to set up over those speakers. We just had to do that at a show yesterday, because if you put a band outside, it just more than triple the chance that your show is going to have rain. But we put those on and it's so easy to do. So I have the Evolve EV 50s, and those are like the tower speakers with the subwoofer as the base, and then has like the tower type of shape. It's about 6 feet tall, so I haven't found any trash bags that fit that. If you guys know of anything that can go over that, just like a quick trash bag that can go over that very quickly, let me know, and I'll update the description down below as well. But yeah, trash bags for speakers is awesome. Have the rack cases ready to cover up as soon as possible. That was a big mistake that I did at the beginning. I had enough time to prep for that first one. I should have taken the like 30 seconds to put the front covers on, move the antennas down and then lock that in place. That would have protected the gear a lot better. The back of the rack, like I said, it had 32 cables going in and out of it. I didn't want to repatch that. In hindsight, I should have been like, well, this storm does not look good. I can repatch. That's not that big of a deal, and put the back case on. I am also working on a video. I need to figure this out, but I plan to have a video on how I can get all the inputs into my X32 and all the outputs of the split. Both of those will only be done with one cable. I'm working on a video for that, so be sure to subscribe to see if I figure this out. I do recommend having those waterproof cases for your important stuff. So we just played yesterday and it started to rain again, of course. This one wasn't bad, but I had PTSD from these other 2 shows that I just went with. So as soon as it started to rain, I took my expensive stuff and I just put them in these waterproof cases right away. My iPad, my in-ear monitors, the wireless system, my wireless mic, all of that went covered right away. I definitely recommend having some of those, because then at least your stuff is protected in a case. If it does get soaked, do not turn it on right away. If you've powered it down, let it dry out first. Get some fans, let it dry out. Get those dehumidifiers and let it dry out. I think my drummer for the second show, he said that he used rubbing. He opened up the ROLAND SPDSX and used like rubbing alcohol or something to dry it out. That's a little risky for me personally, but that's what he did. So that's another option if you want to do that. So make sure that you let it dry out first. And that includes at the show. So something actually happened. This is the mic that I use. This is the Shure SLXD. I have a video on it if you're interested, but it wouldn't turn off when it got hit. It was like there's like that green light. Do you see that green light that was on? That wouldn't turn off. So I foolishly was like, okay, well, I'm going to open this up and then take the battery out so that it turned off. That was stupid. I should have let it dry. That might have been why I thought it was fried. My wireless guitar system as well. You only can turn this thing on by opening it up and pushing the power button inside. Just let the battery drain and let it power off automatically. Don't open up where there's access to the electronics in here. I mean, this is pretty well protected, right? I open this and this gets definitely a lot more access to electronic elements in here. Have insurance on your gear. I do have a policy with Music Pro Insurance. I haven't had to use it yet. I thought I was going to have to with my wireless system, but apparently it is working right now. So I haven't had to file a claim with them, so I don't know if they are good or bad. I've heard good things about them though. The other one that I've heard is Heritage. A friend of mine actually just had to file a claim with them, and he said that it worked amazingly well. So both of those are worth looking into. I will post links to those down below in the description as well. Update your contracts. So I've updated the hell out of my contracts now, especially for booking weddings and private events and stuff like that. You cannot control the weather, and you just need to make sure that you are playing in a place where there is proper coverage in case if something like this does happen. Everybody wants to wish that their event is going to run perfectly. It's going to be a nice, cool 71 degrees out with just a gentle breeze with the sun out, and it's going to work perfectly. That never happens. So just make sure that you always have coverage and update your contracts. I downloaded an app called Lightning Pro. It'll let me know if there is lightning within a certain radius. I did also buy a wind reader. So for the wind, if it gets up to 20 miles an hour and I'm under a tent, and again, I hope I never have to be under just a normal tent again. But if I am under 20 miles an hour, that's where it starts to get dangerous. Up to 30, is for like a stage. It depends on you and how strict you want to be on that. Wind is by far the biggest problem. If it just rains down and you're on a tent, that's fine. It's easy to protect against that. It's always wind combined with the weather. Like I said, I did buy that wind reader. I'll link to that down below as well. My singer made a funny joke. He's like, I'm sure that the mother of the bride is going to be like, oh yeah, your wind reader says, that it's 20 miles an hour. We'll shut the wedding down and move inside. Anyone who does weddings knows exactly what I'm talking about. And I would say that it's okay to push back a little bit. I've realized personally how lenient I've been about this stuff, and I need to start pushing back a little bit more. Doesn't mean you have to be a dick about it. If you're rude, it's just going to make it worse for the next musician who has to be in this situation as well. But if you don't have proper coverage, there's nothing wrong with pushing back and saying, hey, this was in our contract, or just explaining water and electricity. They don't go well together. There's a couple of situations I can think of. There's one show in particular where we did a private event. It was like a corporate party. And they did not have coverage. They wanted us to play on a stage just like in the middle of this event, completely open. Our other guitar player had to try to explain this to the planner of the event, and she kept like pulling out her phone saying, well, the radar says it looks like it's going this way, so it's just going to miss us. And you could literally hear thunder while she was trying to explain this. And he had to put his foot down and be like, no, this is where we're playing. We're playing over here where it's covered. There's another option here. That is what we're doing. She was furious. She wouldn't look at us for the rest of the event. That we did what we had to do. It was in our contract specifically. There's nothing wrong with pushing back against that. I remember another event where the planner for this event is another corporate event. They absolutely refused to have us covered. It was like it would ruin the aesthetics of the view, of the environment. If you've done any private parties or weddings, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's so much about image more than anything else. But they absolutely refused to have us covered. And they said, I quote, if there's any chance of rain, we will move you inside. It dumped for like an hour straight. Not kidding. As soon as we got there, we're like, it is going to rain. Half hour later, it dumped for over an hour. And then after it was done, she came out and she's like, well, I think it's done, so let's go ahead and get set up. It's like, well, you obviously don't mean any of this. You want us to set up here. You don't care. There's literally power strips upside down in puddles, literally in a puddle, and it's mind-numbing. Okay, last one. It was a wedding. I know I'm ranting here, but there was another one that I did at a wedding. We set up, it was under another flimsy pop-up tent. I swear if I never play under a pop-up tent again, I'll be completely happy. But we were watching the radar. We're performing like for cocktail hour, and then we were going to perform later at the same area for reception. Every radar was like, hey, this storm is coming. It's coming. I went and told the planner. They're like, no, they insist that it's happening outside. Everyone was setting up for like dinner and stuff like that. I was like, when this hits, you guys are gonna have to bring everything inside. When this hits, we're gonna have to stay here with the gear, wait it out, and then move everything in and then reset everything up. It's gonna take a while. They said, if that happens, if this does happen, then you just focus on your gear. And I was like, all right, you've made the decision. Sure enough, it starts dumping. Sure enough, they start moving everybody inside. All the caterers and stuff like that are scrambling to put everything inside. And they go, all right, let's get this stuff inside. Let's go. And I was like, I was just, at that point, the person I became at that point is the person I need to become during the setup part of this. As I was like, no, man, I told you, man, this is exactly what's going to happen. We need to wait here with the gear, wait it out. And then as soon as it started to let up a little bit, then we hauled everything inside and reset back up. It's just mind-numbing sometimes, man. It drives me nuts. So there's nothing wrong with pushing back a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. At the same time, we are entertainers as well. That is our job as musicians. We're there to entertain. At that event, when that happened, we still had a speaker up. We moved it in so that it was protected. Luckily, the wind wasn't too bad. And we played It's Raining Men, and everyone danced in the rain to It's Raining Men and had a great time. We're still there to save the show, regardless if the planner just wouldn't listen to me and knows exactly how the weather is going to work, regardless of what every radar says. So, you're still there to provide entertainment, and they were very happy at the end of the night. So just keep that in mind. Don't be a dick, but it's okay to push back. My whole last, 10 minutes or however long that took to me ranting could just be summed up in don't be a dick, but it's okay to push back. So hopefully this video was somewhat helpful for you. I hope I gave you some ideas of how to better prepare for this, and hopefully you don't have to go through this like I did, but hopefully you are more prepared for when it does happen, because shows happen outside. There's no way to get around that. But we can all push for better coverage so that more people know, hey, you can't just put a band under a flimsy 10 by 10 pop-up tent. So hopefully this video helped you guys out. If you guys found this video helpful, do me a favor, just hit the thumbs up button, especially if you made it to the end. I'm assuming you found it helpful, and it does help the YouTube algorithm favor my channel and recommend my videos to more people, so I would appreciate it. So if you're looking for some other videos to watch, I do have a video on 10 different items for an in-ear monitor rack, and also I do have a video explaining how to go through an in-ear monitor guide on how to set up your in-ear monitors. Hopefully they don't get left out in the rain. So check out both of those videos by clicking the links on your screen now. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at ScottYuleMusic. I've been posting quite a few stories about my troubles with the weather this summer, so be sure to follow me there at ScottYuleMusic. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below with any other tips that you have about surviving weather like this. Thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you next time.